Good afternoon and welcome everyone to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida for a briefing today to talk about the aftermath of Hurricane Matthew that passed over and near the Kennedy Space Center at the end of last week. We're pleased to be joined today by NASA Kennedy Space Center Director Bob Cabana and the Chief of the Damage Assessment and Recovery Team, Bob Holl. Thank you, Bob. We'll start things off with opening remarks from Bob Cabana.
Thanks, Mike. Well, man, it seems like a month since last Thursday. A lot has transpired. There was a lot of anxiety and a lot of hard work to get us to a safe configuration where we opened up for normal operations at 6 o'clock this morning. I just can't say enough good things about both teams. Wayne Key leading my ride-out team, keeping us safe throughout the storm, keeping things operating, keeping an eye on things, and preparing us for this storm. And of course, Bob Holl, who led the damage assessment and recovery team, that did just a truly outstanding job getting things ready these last 3 days so that we could open up this morning. We were definitely blessed. If you look back, you know, that storm didn't progress to a Category 4. It stayed a Category 3, and then it took that wobble right at the last and went east about 20 to 25 miles. The eye was about 20 to 25 miles from the Cape. At pad 39, we saw 118 knot winds, 100 feet off the ground, and 70, 75 knots down on the surface. Think about those winds if they'd have been 25 miles inland instead of right out there at the edge of the Cape. You know, what Titusville and Cocoa and Port St. John and the other areas would look like, Merritt Island. We were definitely lucky. Unfortunately, the folks further north weren't quite as lucky as we were. So, because of the winds the way they were, most of the impact to KSC was in the northern part of the center in the LC-39 area around the VAB and all the facilities associated with LC-39. We did pretty good down on the southern end. And we'll run through some pictures here. I got a little cheat sheet here. Let's put up the VAB. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the damage. Then I'm going to let Bob talk a little bit about the efforts of the damage assessment and recovery team, and then we'll open it up for questions. But, you know, the VAB, it looks pretty good. Well, why is that? Well, for one reason is, you know, back in 2005 when we lost all those panels off it, they did an analysis of why. And part of it had to do with a lot of corrosion on the fasteners and the washers. And we used stainless steel washers and lock nuts, and it did its job. The panels look great. We kept them all on. The roof looks good. The one issue that we did have, next picture, if you look at the utility annex for the VAB, in the electrical room, this is what runs the chillers. It provides all the conditioned air for all the facilities out here. The roof came off. As a result of that, all the switchgear down inside was totally waterlogged. And you know, we got to get a new roof on there. We got to get it all dried out. May have to replace a lot of the switching equipment that runs the chillers. Well, that made the buildings non-inhabitable. And these guys jumped through hoops getting portable chillers out here from Atlanta, Charlotte, and across the country so that we could have operations this morning. And we'll talk more about that. Let's go over to OSB-1. OSB-1 had damage to the roof in all areas. Was up in the northeast corner. There were a couple of windows out, but you know, we got folks in, we got it dried out. The big thing here was getting those chillers hooked up so that we could actually get folks into it this morning and have a safe work environment. And that has been the key throughout this whole thing. It's ensuring the safety of our team. We've got environmental monitoring in all the facilities to make sure that, you know, there's no hazards from mold or must or the dampness. So all's good there. A portable chiller is hooked up, of course, to condition the air. OSB-2 took major damage to the roof, and it got up underneath it. It peeled it back, and it allowed significant water intrusion all the way down to the second floor. There's about a fifth of OSB-2 that's not inhabitable right now, and we've had to relocate folks. And we got ServPro in there right away. They're going through the water remediation, getting it all dried out. Again, when I was over here, I can't remember what day it was, they all kind of run together, but night before last we were hooking up a a portable chiller Sunday night to start conditioning the air in there and help ServPro out with their drying efforts. So, we're coming along there. Down in the industrial area, it was mostly the smaller outbuildings, the metal buildings where we had a lot of roof damage, significant throughout the area. You can just see some of it here as we look across. But, to the major facilities, the Space Station Processing Facility, the ONC High Bay, Orion was fine inside the ONC High Bay. All the office space was fine. Same with the SSPF headquarters building. No damage, no water intrusion, all looking good, just some of the outbuildings. Here at the press site, we took a hit. You can see one of the trailers blowing up out of the parking lot in there, but actually not too bad. Again, mostly just the smaller outbuildings. Let's see, we got Pad B. I think we got some pictures out there. Actually, Pad B looked pretty darn good. Didn't see any significant damage out there at the pad itself. I think it really helped go into our new clean pad concept where we roll out the rocket along with the on the mobile launcher that provides all the support, not having that fixed service structure out there at the pad. Let's see, next slide. Again, just a shot of our new headquarters building going up. Nothing significant there. That's all looking good. I skipped over, back at the VAB, the other thing that was impacted besides the utility annex, a lot of the trailers that are supporting the construction within High Bay 3 and the mobile launcher sustained damage. And there were some civil servants occupying these spaces, but it's primarily the contractors that are doing the work. A couple of the trailers turned over, roof missing on some. But the important thing is there was no impact to the mobile launcher itself or any of the platforms within the high bay. In fact, the only damage that the VAB really suffered was the north roll-up door suffered a little damage, but none of the major doors or any of the work inside, so that was really good. The beach house, unfortunately, kind of an iconic structure. The roof came off and there was significant water intrusion inside it. And then the last picture I want to show is of the dunes and the beach itself. And there was erosion on the beach. Here you can see the secondary dune. After Sandy came through, and Sandy didn't really hit Florida, but it really impacted our beach here at KSC. And all that money that we put into building that secondary dune, it worked perfect. The grass held it in place. The dune looks great from all the remediation that we did in the past. It was the primary beach area, the initial dunes before you get to that secondary dune that took the hit here from Matthew. Overall, significant damage, especially when you consider all the roof damage and the water intrusion, but so much better than what it could have been. I tell you, I was really worried, and I came to work Saturday morning and participated in the aerial survey. And even though I saw a lot of damage, when I got done, I had great relief because it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So I think a lot of that has to do with the efforts of the team preparing for Matthew and the great job that we've done getting ready to go to work today. And on that note, I want to turn it over to the guy that led that assessment and recovery effort. And he and his team have just done an outstanding job cleaning up the center, making sure it was safe, getting the facilities ready, especially making sure that office space out here in the LC39 area was safe to occupy, and that we were able to relocate folks. So, Bob, why don't you tell them a little bit about what you did the last 3 days during this damage assessment and how it all went?
Sure, I'd be happy to, and I'm really absolutely very proud of the team that I worked with and the damage assessment and recovery team. We call it DART, so that's why people kind of stumble over it, but the DART team is only called upon when there's been an emergency and we have to come back into the center and we don't know the situation. So Wayne Key did the ride out and he made sure the center was safe, and he called up the DART, and the DART team all assembles together, and we get our initial brief from the ride-out team who told us their initial survey, and they said, hey, there's a number of things that got broken and damaged, and we knew exactly what to go work on. The good news is our team has all the right disciplines on it, but we keep it very small and tight, because the first thing we want to go do is assess what all the damage is, and then we want to go safe the damage, and then we want to figure out how we can get everybody back to work. We do that through a number of ways, but our core principle is always safety, right? We only let people go and work in a buddy system. They go out by twos, and we only do all the work by daylight hours. So that's one of the things that, while you would say, hey, this took a long time, well, we're only working daylight hours, and it's really important. What I would really offer is the first day is always about the assessment, and the second day is about the recovery. And so we were able to go recover, and we had a significant failure up here in the VAB area. And the good news is it's just one extra day, and we're able to get everybody back to work.
Yeah, when you say it took a long time, I take exception to that. I think it was done exceptionally fast when you consider all the things that you guys had to do. So I couldn't be more proud of you.
I was hoping to have it back open in 4 hours for you, but I didn't make it. So
that's okay. Also, Wayne Key and the ride-out team, we also had folks from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station and Patrick Air Force Base in our Emergency Operations Center riding out with Wayne. Wayne, when I talked to him, I guess it was Friday after the storm had passed, he said, and Wayne's been here at KSC over 30 years, doing pretty much the same job. And Wayne said it was the worst he had seen in all the storms that he'd ridden out as far as being out here at the Cape. Of course, the LCC and the EOC is designed to take a Category 5 hurricane, and I'm glad we didn't have to put up with that.
Well, I'll tell you, 12 years ago, I had the honor of riding out with Wayne. So I know how to do the ride out, and now I know how to do the DART as well. So that's
Absolutely.
great.
You can have my job next.
All right, we will open it up for questions now. If you're in the room, please wait for the microphone. State your name and affiliation and to whom you're addressing the question with their last name, since we have two Bobs here. We also have some folks on the phone bridge, and we'll get to any questions that you may have after we start in the room. And we'll begin with Marcia Dunn.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press, probably for Bob Cabana. Do you have any price estimate on damage yet, and how many workers have been dislocated because of facilities that are wet or
Sure.
leaking?
So I knew you were going to ask that, and the answer is no. We've pretty much done all the categorizing of the damage that we've had. And I had cost estimators in yesterday. We're going to be working through today and the next few days. I don't want to release any numbers until I have an accurate answer of what the costs are, but it's going to be in the millions of dollars. We'll give you a number when I have an accurate number. I'm working with headquarters, and we're talking to OMB, and we'll work through what we have available right now as far as near term to get money available to handle the immediate stuff. And I'm sure down the road there's going to be some sort of emergency authorization for Hurricane Matthew that will help us out in the end. But financially, we're in a good position to fix what we have to fix right away. And when I have an accurate number, then we'll work with the folks at headquarters and get that released. As far as relocating folks, I'm going to turn that over to Bob. We've moved folks into office space within OSB 2. They just kind of bunched up a little bit, but we also have other office space available. And I heard a number, but he's probably got a more accurate number of how many folks we actually relocated.
I apologize, I don't have the exact number, but what we did offer was temporary relocation areas. We call them hotels, and the folks wanted to go move because they had some damage that we didn't know about right away, that they could go work there while it gets cleaned up.
But the booster fabrication facilities available, we have office space in there. And then we also put signs on all the doors. Although we're monitoring the environment in all the buildings and it's safe, some folks are a little more sensitive to not having perfect air than others, and we've made space available in the SSPF Conference Center, in the Mission Briefing Room over in the ONC. If folks want to, the buildings are fine to go into, they can have access, they can actually work there, but if they're uncomfortable for any reason, they can get what they need out of their building and have another place to work.
Would you say hundreds of people?
Oh, not even that many. That's right. And so for the OSB2, which did have some relocation, it's just as Bob Cabana had said, that they were just moved around inside the building, so we didn't consider them a real
They kind of doubled up in some of their existing workspace.
Right.
And if you didn't hear Marcia's question, she said, would you say hundreds of people?
Hundreds, yeah, he said no.
No,
Right.
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, James.
James Dean, Florida Today. Mr. Cabana, I know we're looking at maybe a few days slip or so in Gozar. I don't know if you have a new date yet for that, but big picture, just trying to get a feel for if
Sure.
is there any impact at all losing a few days and with the damage you see in front of you to missions in general, whether it's any on your plate?
Absolutely. So for Gozar, you need to talk to the NOAA folks about that. That's their mission, and they're pretty much the ones that decide and want to release when they launch or don't launch.
I mean, anything. Obviously, you said Orion looks good. I mean, is there any project with your GSDO or anything
hopefully,
on the manifest that would be affected?
At this point right now, James, I don't see any. One of the impacts was getting folks back to work on the software for SLS and Orion, and the key to that was getting folks into the launch, into the firing rooms in the LCC. And thanks to Bob's effort, we were ready to get those chillers going so they could actually power up the computers and stuff. So, I mean, we're only talking a couple days that folks were out for the hurricane. Normal work day to day, they're back in there working. I don't know of, at this time, of any significant issues that will impact SLS or Orion as a result of the hurricane.
Okay, we'll take a question from Jay Barbary and then go to the phone bridge and then Greg Pallone in the back of the room.
Well, I have a two-prong here. For Bob Holl, what were the highest surface winds at KSC and Patrick? And for the killer Marine Corps fighter pilot, Gozar, will that be your next launch when you get back on schedule? And Falcon 9 going off of 39A. Any idea? Does this slow it down, or we know where we are on that?
I'll take the easy one. We measured between 70 and 75 knots right here at the surface. At 500 foot, we had over 118 knots that were measured of wind.
What about Patrick?
We all have the same measurements. That's all
so
in the same area.
So you're talking about 75 knot surface
75 knots
winds.
at the surface winds, correct.
Okay, good deal. Now, Gozar.
So again, on Gozar, I'm not going to comment on when they're going to launch. That's a determination that they have to make. And as far as SpaceX goes, getting the Falcon 9 flying again, you really need to talk to SpaceX, Jay, and how they come on 39A and getting through the safety investigation they're doing. But we're working closely with them. We're following what's going on, and they'll launch when they're ready.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, let's take a question from Stephen Clark, Spaceflight Now, on the phone bridge, and then we'll go to Greg Pallone in the back of the room. Stephen?
Hi, Mike. My question has been asked and answered, so thanks.
Okay, how about Irene Klotz from Reuters?
Hey, thanks very much. My question, I think, is for Bob Cabana. Do you plan on rebuilding the beach house?
Good question, Irene. Always nice talking to you. And that's a decision we have yet to make. We'll see what it costs and what it's worth. It's of course, an iconic structure. It's been around for a long time. It's been a place where astronauts have found relaxation time prior to many launches, and it's a really, really nice conference facility. So we'll have to see what the costs are and how it all works out. So I'm not ready to give you a definite answer on that yet.
Okay, we're back in the room. Greg.
Not to downplay the people or anything, but any estimate on wildlife? And how about the eagle's nest? How'd the eagle's nest fare through this?
So the eagle's...
If that's been asked, Bob, I apologize.
No, the eagle's nest survived. And actually, I don't have any estimate on wildlife. Wildlife are pretty darn capable of burrowing under and staying safe. And I think they did well. But I was really impressed to see that eagle's nest was still up there in the tree. That's the other thing. The team did an outstanding job tracking down all our civil service and government employees, and I got a report this morning. We've been tracking it all through the weekend, but 100% of our folks have been accounted for with no serious injury or significant damage to their personal property. And I think that's outstanding. And that's, folks heeded the warnings that came before this storm. As I said at the beginning, we were lucky, but it was really good that folks paid attention and actually looked out for safety.
Marcia?
Yeah, I have 2 more questions. The OSB 2 building's sort of new. Were you surprised that it took such roof damage?
Well, Cat 3 hurricane, we're going to figure out how to make that roof better as we fix it this time.
And you hear the ocean's rising, and is this sort of like a wake-up call on what to do with the Space Center down the road, decades ahead, as the water level rises? How can you protect the pads or much of the Space Center like 50 years from now? I mean,
And that's the purpose of those dunes. And they did their job. They protected us well. We were also very fortunate that this hurricane hit at low tide here.
James?
James Dean, Florida today. Mr. Holl, if you were here in 2004, I wondered if you could just sort of give your impressions of, the difference after this storm versus what turned out to be a couple or 3 back that year, how the center fared.
Well, right. So, I mean, this year, I would say, having lived through those storms, I recognize that something big could really go happen with trying the recovery effort. And we also had some buildings that had some roof damage at that point. We had to call in the industrial chillers and the industrial drying company. So at least we knew that was something that we were ready to go do. We were calling them in the very first day. So having lived through that experience, that was something that just made the decision path a little easier. Otherwise, the VAB panels, having them all on, that was a significant smile on my face, because that was just a big project for a long time to go put those back on.
I mean, would that stand out as kind of the area that was, I know you're concerned about everything, but, not maybe first knowing what had happened in the past, something you were fearing would happen again, and I just kind of, what areas were you in real time, kind of most worried about as winds got sort of up and up to a certain level?
Well, from my personal fear, and Bob Cabana knows this, that I asked, let's go fly over the utility switch yard so we can look at all the electric and make sure nothing flew into them. And nothing did. Everything was really great. So I felt really good, just as Bob had said. When we landed, I thought the power grid was going to be great. We were really knew that our water systems were good, so I thought all the infrastructure was solid. Turns out that we lost our industrial chiller. Yeah. So that was a surprise.
We had one power line down, and that was not a significant one, and it had old wooden poles. Right. It didn't have the new hurricane poles. The other thing I want to say is I got to give credit to Wayne Key and my emergency management team. We haven't had a hurricane here, in 11 years, and had some tropical rains, but that's about it. But he does an outstanding job leading us through the planning for and hurricane exercises at the start of each hurricane year. And I think having that preparation, going through those drills, treating it like you really have a hurricane, and getting everybody to go through that exercise at all levels, including the senior management team, I think it really prepared us for Matthew.
Any further questions? Bob, any closing comments?
No, I really appreciate everybody's support throughout this whole ordeal. I can't say enough good things about the KSC NASA family and team, and how they prepared for it, how they responded to it, and the support that we've gotten from the NASA centers and headquarters across the country. It's always an event like this that pulls us together and shows what we can accomplish when we need to go out and solve a problem and rise above adversity. And like I said to my team at the end of my note yesterday, it's time to get back to the business of being America's premier spaceport and heading off on our journey to Mars. So let's go do it.
Sounds great. And with that, we'll close things up, and we will roll some video footage that we acquired after Hurricane Matthew passed by of Kennedy Space Center. That's how we will close today. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thanks.